They say going live is the most awkward thing ever, and especially when you're doing it from your pickup truck and you have to start it and then go get in the back seat. So Brandi, you just keep them company. I'll be right there.
Hey guys, we're here to tell you a little bit about the justice system that we have learned and gone through with our kids being stalked and harassed over the last, 2 years, year and a half, however long it's been.
Forever! Okay, so really broad strokes, as Brandi said, our two children, they were 15 years old when it started. My daughter Jillian, her son Preston, were stalked by a 41-year-old woman in our town. This actually began a year and a half ago, but we can now finally talk about it because we have had the sentencing hearing. Okay, we could not talk about it for the first year because we didn't know who was doing it, because Marcie Smith, the stalker, used anonymous texts, emails, all sorts of things like that, where it took a year for the Glen Rock PD to find out who she was. As soon as we found out who she was, we got a protection order, and then we had to wait 6 months before we had our time in court. Technically, we didn't have to be quiet for that 6 months, but the attorney asked us to, because we're starting to get into the lawyer stuff. If we spoke out publicly about what happened and she decided to plead not guilty, we could get accused of tainting the jury, which means she wouldn't get a fair trial. Whew. Okay. Brandi is the legal expert.
I'm only a YouTube law nerd.
Whatever. She knows this woman's been amazing. I have not even had a parking ticket. I have had no experience at all with the justice system until this situation with our children, and it's baptism by fire. So we're going to just teach you or talk with you about some of the things that confused us or that we have learned through going through this. Again, we are not lawyers. If you are a lawyer, please feel free to correct us if we have something wrong. I know people are going to be asking questions in the comments. We're not going to do that during the live because it ruins the flow and gets confusing, but we absolutely will either respond to you in writing to your questions and comments or use your comment to create another video. All right, Brandi, let's start out. Can you explain the difference between civil and criminal and talk to them about what our case or our sentencing that we just did, what side of that it falls on?
Yeah, so civil is just citizen to citizen. Actually, our protection order is civil.
Yes.
That's something I didn't know.
Yes, I did know that. We found that out accidentally.
Oh.
Right?
So that is a civil thing. That's why the prosecutors were not involved in our protection order.
Okay, so what that means, again, person versus person. If you kick my dog and I take you to civil court and make you pay the vet bills, it's me against you because you hurt my dog. So the protection order is civil because it's us against Marcie saying you cannot go near our children. Person against person. The judge is still involved. You still have to do legal paperwork, but it's civil, person against person. Criminal.
Correct. So criminal is when there are laws on the books of the state, county, city, all of that. Federal, that is criminal. They can charge, and the people who get to do and decide that are not even the officers. It's the prosecution, whether they go forward. The officers can write a ticket, they can write a citation. It is the prosecutors that then decide, does this fit? Do we have enough to convict? All of the things. And then that's when you could either go in front of a jury or a judge also. But that's not us. We didn't get to choose what she was charged with.
Okay, so again, that's the criminal side. So Marcie Smith broke the stalking laws in the state of Wyoming, which we can all agree are not good enough, and we're going to change that. She broke those laws. So then it goes to the county attorney's office, and they say, okay, here's the charges. We're going to charge you for the misdemeanor of breaking the stalking laws. There is a prosecutor from the county attorney that is assigned to that case. You, the person, the victim, does not get to pick who that is. They pick who that is. You sit and meet with them. They debrief you. You find out about that. And then moving forward, the county prosecutor then talks to the criminal's lawyer. It is between them. What is happening? Let's talk about the different ways that she can plead. Okay. So there are 3 ways if you're a criminal. Okay. And if they say you broke these laws, there's 3 ways you can plead. There is not guilty, there is no contest, and there's guilty. Can you explain the differences between the 3?
Yes. Obviously, not guilty means you didn't do it, or you don't think that there's enough evidence to convict you.
Okay, so if you're pleading not guilty, what would your choice then be?
Then you can either go to trial or you can go in front of a judge, depending on the charges. It's complicated, but it just depends. But that way, the prosecutor, those are the things that you see on TV. Like the prosecutor goes and he asks questions and then your lawyer asks questions.
So if you plead not guilty, then the judge in the end has to figure out if you're guilty or not. And you can do that two ways. You can either stand in front of the judge, give your information, and the judge will say not guilty or guilty, or you go in front of a jury and the jury decides if you are guilty or not guilty. And the judge still in the end, within the parameters of the law, which we're going to talk about that, then gives you your sentencing, your punishment in lay terms. Okay. So that's if you plead not guilty, you get to go in front of the judge or the jury. Then they decide if you're not guilty or guilty, and then you get your sentencing. What if you plead no contest, which is what Marcie Smith did? She started out pleading not guilty, then went to the sentencing hearing and changed it to, or the plea hearing. See, this is where I get confused.
It was both.
Same thing. Okay.
Being both.
It ended up being, see, look at her helping out. She knows all the answers. So she started out not guilty and then pled no contest in court. What does no contest mean?
No contest means you're not disagreeing that the stuff happened and that you did it and all of that stuff, that there's enough evidence, you are not disagreeing, but you're not saying I'm guilty. The reason people do that is so that they cannot be held responsible civilly.
Remember we talked, there's people versus people. People keep on saying, can't you sue her in civil court? That's us saying, you hurt our children. We want money. We want this. We want that. Yes. We still have the option to do that, okay? So the reason why she pled no contest, which in the eyes of the judge, she is guilty, okay? In the eyes of the law, no contest is the same as guilty. But if she had pled flat out guilty, then the civil trial would already be won on our side in our favor because she already admitted in court that she was guilty. Our civil trial would already be won, and so her lawyer wouldn't let her do that. Are we allowed to say she offered to do that if we wouldn't go to civil and we said, too bad, we are not going to waive our right to go civil?
Yeah, the prosecutor brought that as an option. If you do this, then her attorney said that she would plead guilty. If you say you won't sue her.
But we didn't want to say that.
We don't know.
I want to put out there, since we're talking about it, how about you share with them a couple of reasons why we have not decided if we're going to do civil, yes or no. We have made no decision at all if we are going to go after her civilly and sue her. Do you want to let them, what are the things to consider?
First of all, it's a really long process. And it really...
Can you explain like how long? Like
3-5 years. And then they can appeal it after. And then if there's really no money to be had, like the judge could say, yeah, you owe $1 million. But if you have no $1 million or they, it just because they say that does not mean you're going to get that money.
Yeah. And whoever loses in civil court has to pay all the lawyer fees. So when someone's taken to civil court, if you win, they have to pay your lawyer fees, but you still had the money to pay. You still had to have, in the meantime, the money to pay. So these are things to think about. And also, let's talk about that 3 to 6 years. Like, do we want our kids to have to continue to work through this, process this? So these are all the questions we're asking ourselves. We've made no decisions, but we are very aware that going civilly against Marcie Smith is still very much an option. All right. So we talked about not guilty plea. We talked about no contest. We basically did guilty, but let's do it again. What happens if Marcie Smith had gone in there and pled guilty?
It just means that she did it. She is admitted to every single solitary thing that we brought up. And she says, I'm sorry. Well, okay. It doesn't even mean that she's sorry. Sorry. But she
forgot it's live. Can't edit that out.
She says that I am guilty. It was me. Give me my sentence. Okay. So that basically, yep.
I do want to reiterate, her plea of no contest is still guilty in the eyes of the law.
Yeah.
Okay? So, okay. Sorry about that. Dang, my husband calling right then. So we, again, knew starting January 9th that we weren't going to get jail time.
If we continued with the plea. So
if Marcie accepted it, which that's a whole nother thing that we'll talk about. So we've had time to cry and be mad and process it and focus our energy on, we can't save our kids, but we're going to save other people's kids. We understand, though, it's a shock to every other person. First of all, you're just finding out that our families have been going through this. And then we also understand and agree with 100% your indignation about it. The way, again, remember, the judge can only rule within the parameters of the law. So even the way our stalking laws are written, no matter what she did is a misdemeanor. We think it should be a felony. We're going to change that. Adult stalking a minor. And no matter what, the most she could get is a year of jail time. And then let's talk about the fact that you can get a year of jail time, but you actually only serve 3 real days in jail. That's a whole nother thing about the justice system. The plea that was struck, again, is between Marcie's lawyer and the county attorney, and we can offer suggestions about what we want on there. So for example, I said no drugs and alcohol, and that I wanted a mental health evaluation and counseling. I know you echoed the need for that as well. So what happens is the county attorney goes to the lawyer, in this case it's Marcie's lawyer, Llewellyn, and he says, all right, this is what she did. We all know what she did. Here's all the evidence. Here's the 500-page police report. Not really, but pretty close. And here's the plea. Okay, so we want her to serve 7 to 14 days of actual jail time. It doesn't have to be all at once. Mental health counseling, 2 years of unsupervised probation, and no drugs and alcohol. And then Marcie's lawyer says, well,
he brought up things that he could use to go in front of a judge, bring up discrepancies in maybe looking for the search warrant or anything like that. Every single solitary defense attorney, I mean, it's their job.
That's his job.
As much as we don't like it. Every single solitary defense attorney is going to question every single solitary
and find
thing.
a loophole for their client, because that's what they're paid to do. So Llewellyn came back to the county attorney and said, yeah, there's this with the search warrant that I don't like, and you need to take the jail time off, or we're going to pursue it, and we're going to make you spend a lot of time and money fighting us on this, doing a jury trial. I'm going to make your life miserable, spend tax dollars, and we're going to drag this out more.
And obviously, we're not party to what they actually said. That's like our interpretation, feelings, thoughts.
We're not there, and we have no power.
Yep.
We have no power.
We don't give our opinions, but that's
we can be like, well, I really wish you would fight this because we really want jail time, and it doesn't matter. The county attorney's office decided to remove that 7 to 14 days of jail time and keep the plea as what was accepted, as what you've read in the paper, and as what you know has happened.
The other thing I think is really important to say is there are times when a judge can go away from that plea. Like, okay, you've pled and this is what we've agreed to and talked about, but I'm going to sentence you to something different. This plea was a different kind of plea. I forgot to look it up what it's called, but they both agreed that if the judge either takes this or leaves it, and then we're back at square one, and the prosecutors did not seem like they were going to,
then we're back fighting for another 6 months or doing whatever and still not being able to talk, right? There was a special thing about this where the judge either had to take it or leave it. I do not blame him for taking it. So here's a couple other.
And I just also want to say, sorry, I have to say this. Yeah. He did not want to.
No, well, yeah, that's what okay, so that was, okay, so 2 more points. Okay. Number 1, something that I think we need to look at is the reason why the county attorneys continuously accept pleas, accept crappy deals for the victims, is because they are overworked, understaffed, and underfunded. Okay? I want to make that point. Is it okay? No. Does it effing suck when you're the victim? Absolutely. But that is the reality of the situation, and I want to prepare anyone else, because I was not prepared for that. Right? When they can, the county attorney's office is likely going to take the plea because it is saving them time, money, and energy that they already do not have. I want to put that out there. Okay. The judge in court, in the most recent article from the Glen Rock Independent, I encourage you to read it. There are a couple of quotes from the judge there. What happens in court is Marcie goes in, she's with her lawyer. They say, we're going to change our plea from not guilty to no contest, or this is what happened in our court. And feel free to step in if I'm missing a step. And then, ahead of time, both lawyers had already prepped the judge. So he kind of knew what was happening and what was about the case. And then all 6 of us read our victim impact statements. When we got done reading,
So the prosecutor did have to lay out.
Yes, the prosecutor did.
Just okay, she sucked in her ass because she sent messages. He didn't go into a lot of detail.
Because he knew we would. He knew our victim statements. Like, he trusted us to do a good job laying the groundwork for what happened. So when we read the victim statements at the end, the judge was visibly emotional. So was the whole courtroom. And throughout. He was holding back tears as he talked. And I don't know about you, Brandi. Again, we were prepared for the plea. We knew that it was just going to be unsupervised probation for 2 years, no drugs and alcohol, and mental health counseling. We knew this. When he said to her face, not once but twice, that she was evil, that she had ruined the trust of a whole entire town, and that she should not be allowed near children at all, I regained a lot of hope that I had lost in the justice system.
Yeah. It
healed a wound I did not know I had. To hear how helpless the judge felt, and to hear that from someone that sees murder trials and the worst of the worst of the worst in front of him. And I just want to say that Judge Allen was the judge, and I do believe him to be a just and fair man. His hands were absolutely tied with what was done by the county attorney's office and by our laws.
Yeah.
I don't know. Do you have anything else to add to that?
Nope.
No? Okay.
Other than he did, because then
that's right. Kudos. I forgot one more really good thing he tried to do.
So then he did try to say, okay, this is what you've agreed, but I think that you should not be allowed to go to any school or athletic activities.
Be near children
should not, so he started to then lay that out, and the defense attorney did what they got to do. And he's like, actually, Judge, remember, this is a whatever the heck it's called.
Yeah.
Plea agreement.
That is the legal term as well.
It's the law nerd term. This is that kind. So you either can agree or say no. Yeah. And then, and the judge took a deep breath, and he really tried on it. Because also the prosecutor, I'm sorry, I gotta put this in, but the prosecutor said at the beginning, he's like, okay, so we all have your blessing, and we this was before
the prosecutor for the county.
Yeah.
Okay. The guy that we've been working with.
So, and we're like, well, blessing is a strong word. We're not this is not,
The judge asked if we agreed with the plea.
So he said, do we agree? And the prosecutor did say, well, reluctantly, and he explained. And so I do, they do care about the victims. It's also they're tied up with the law, right? Restraints too.
Yeah. Thank you for clarifying that. I really appreciate that. Not a big fan of defense attorneys, not like I ever was before, but something that I have learned, and I want to prepare you for if you're going in the justice system, is that our justice system, in my opinion, is built for the criminals, not the victims. Throughout this whole entire 6 months, Marcie Smith and her lawyer, I feel, had 99% of the control. They pushed back court dates and hearing dates continuously. They delayed often in responding to us with information that would have given us some peace and some closure. And I also want to add a very important part. There's some people that believe that we're lying, that we made this up. You've seen all the evidence, and the court has decided that she is guilty. She said she was guilty. People are also complaining that Marcie has not had an opportunity to speak up. Literally, in court, the judge asked multiple times if she or her lawyer would like to make a statement. That statement would have been on public record. Both of them shook their heads no. They decided not to. Why are we speaking up now? And Marcie Smith is perfectly quiet. Even in the newspaper articles, they all reach out to her lawyer and give her an opportunity to share her side. It is because there is still the opportunity for a civil case. We can say whatever we want because we are only sharing the truth and the evidence and the things that are already part of public record now that we've gone to court, now that the police files are public and you have access to them. Nothing we say is defamation. Nothing we say, even saying Marcie Smith 975 times, is ruining slander. It's all true and it's all the facts. So that is why we can continue to talk. Anything that Marcie says can be used in civil court if we choose to. That is why she is remaining quiet.
The only thing I would say, amen. Amen to all of that.
But a correction,
But
Prairie
one
Wife.
thing. No. And I think, like, we've talked about this. I 100% understand that the criminal, like, it is.
I know. Stop
she's
being
gonna say
fair and
this.
just. Stop being fair and just.
Our system, she does have the right to be deemed innocent until she's proven beyond a reasonable doubt. I am a huge staunch supporter of that. However, it really does put victims in a very crappy. So, is our system perfect? Absolutely not.
But if I was the criminal, I would be glad that there are all
Or
these
if you were
checks and
accused.
balances.
If you were accused of something that you didn't do. But that being said, be aware, like, pay attention. And it really does stink. Sometimes it's like black and white, and humans aren't black and white, and criminals aren't black and white. They push really close.
That reminds me. Okay, one other thing we're going to address, and then lawyer, legal class, justice class with Brandi and Prairie Wife. Yeah, we should have probably done like 50, because I don't think we're even at like the 101 level. A lot of people are asking why she was not charged with grooming, sexual assault, all the things, because of the sexual and vulgar nature of the text from an adult to a minor. All the text came... most of the vulgar, they're proven to be from her. She pled no contest, which is the same as guilty. Like, we know she did it. Okay, so why was she not charged?
So, first of all, I could not find any laws on the books about grooming. So that's something we definitely need to talk about.
Speaking of law changes.
Second of all, she did not ask for any specific nude or acts. We're not going to go into more detail. You know what that means.
Sexual acts, okay? So she said underwear. If she just said nude, different thing. If she would have asked for video or pictures of him doing sexual things, that would have been a different thing.
Yeah, but because he was in his underwear, even if she would have asked for her very own self, the way I read it, I don't think that's, I think, isn't that creepy?
Right? That needs to change a little bit.
And that she's talking about sexual acts and all of that does not matter, because she's not, just the way that she gets around it. I don't know that she did it on purpose, but.
Gray area.
Yeah.
I also want to emphasize, I know I said we were going to stop after this, but protection orders. Protection orders also have a lot of gray area, we have found out. When you have a protection order, you need to, if you are made uncomfortable by the person, not wait until the next day. You have to immediately, when they're making you uncomfortable, call the police and report it. I learned that. Also,
just because you call the police and they're doing that, if it doesn't specifically say exactly that in the protection order, they're going to say, like...
The protection order says 100 yards away, and they're 105 yards away.
Yeah. Or if the judge said this exact thing, you can read our things.
Yeah. It's all in the timeline.
It's not written down on the protection order.
And apparently, your lawyer can write a letter to the judge and be like, yo, I know we have this protection order, but for these 3 days, my client wants to be near the victim, so... you okay with that? And the judge can sign off on it and be like, no problem, dude. Yeah.
Well, okay, that's also not exactly.
That's not exactly what happened.
Yeah, so they did her bond, and the judge can just say
bond is criminal side, protection order.
So that was only between the prosecution. We had no idea. We had no idea.
This one needs its own video, what happened at state wrestling. But like, just so you know, like the bond side and that civil side, protection orders over here on civil, that still stood no matter what letter her lawyer wrote and no matter what the judge signed that said, no, you can have these 3 days to be near those 12 victims that will be in that building at that time. So, okay, so I think our next video will be about state wrestling and all the hoopla hula with that. Okay. As I said, put in comments any questions, concerns, or if you are a lawyer in the nicest way possible, I want you, if you're making a correction to something we said, you have to be a lawyer. Okay? Then we'll believe you. We're jaded. Okay? We have trust issues now. But if you have questions at all, you guys know Brandi and I have been on Prairie Wife doing our best. Of course, we run our own businesses. She's an amazing real estate agent. If you would love to move to this town, which I still stand by, there is no other place that I would want to raise my kids. This is one bad person in a town, in a community full of amazing people. There are dozens of innocent victims besides our children that are being negatively impacted by this. Take the high road. Yeah, we're not going to shut up about this, but we have a purpose for it. We're not being loud to get vengeance or whatever. We're doing it because this is how we make change. And when you shine light on the darkness goes away. And I forgot my train of thought. Oh yeah. So leave comments. We'll address them either in writing or we'll make new video content. Now, because I just had surgery and cannot lunge across this and turn this off, I'm going to awkwardly go out. Brandi, do you have like a favorite song? Do you want to advertise your real estate business?
I was just going to say, while she's doing that, if this is sounding like something that maybe you need to talk to somebody about, look up a victim's advocate, whether the police department or go talk to a victim's advocate.
Yes, I concur. Grit and gray.